The judge asked him directly, "Mr. Harlan, are you representing to this court that the marital estate contains no significant assets beyond what has been disclosed?" My ex-husband James looked at his attorney, then at the judge, then said, calm as anything, "That's correct, Your Honor." I was sitting 8 feet away, and I had a binder in my lap that was about to make that statement the most expensive lie he ever told. My name is Elena Harlan. Well, Elena Morse again now. I'm 38. For 12 years, I was a stay-at-home wife and bookkeeper for my husband's HVAC contracting business in Knoxville, Tennessee. I say bookkeeper loosely. I never had a formal title. James called it helping out. But I did the accounts payable, the accounts receivable, the quarterly tax prep, the vendor contracts, the equipment depreciation schedules, everything, from our kitchen table on a Dell laptop I'd had since 2014. I'm not flashy. I wear the same 3 cardigans in rotation from October through March. I drive a Subaru Forester with 112,000 miles on it. When the marriage ended, I had $4,200 in a personal checking account and a 12-year gap in my formal employment history. What I also had was a complete copy of every financial document that had passed through that business since the year we opened it. I'd kept them because I'm organized, because throwing things away made me nervous, because my mother always said, "Paper is proof," and she was right. James did not know what was in those boxes in my sister's garage. He thought I was the woman who made the coffee and answered the phones. He thought I was going to leave quietly with whatever the attorney talked me into accepting. He had no idea who he'd been married to. Where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city or your country in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories reach. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who should have known better, subscribe. Stay with me. This one is worth it. The divorce was James's idea. He came home on a Sunday in November, sat down at the kitchen table and said he wanted out. No big fight before it, no warning conversation, just a Sunday afternoon and a decision he'd clearly made long before he said it out loud. I asked if there was someone else. He said that wasn't relevant. I asked about the business. He said we'd figure it out fairly. That word, fairly. I should have known then. I moved into my sister Becca's house 2 weeks later with 2 suitcases and a Rubbermaid bin full of paperwork I'd grabbed without fully thinking about why. Instinct. 12 years of watching how numbers moved had apparently trained something in me I hadn't named yet. The first sign that fairly was not what James meant came when his attorney sent over the initial asset disclosure. The business, Harlan HVAC Solutions, was listed at a value of $84,000. I had done the books. I knew what was in those accounts. I knew the equipment inventory, the vehicle fleet, the active service contracts, the retained earnings account that James had been quietly building for 4 years. That business was worth somewhere between $380,000 and $420,000 at a conservative estimate. He'd listed it at 84. I sat at Becca's kitchen table with the disclosure and went through it line by line. The savings account we'd kept for tax reserves, not listed. The company truck we'd bought in March, not listed. 2 pieces of commercial equipment purchased in the last 18 months, not listed. A second bank account I'd helped set up at a different institution 4 years ago, not listed. That was the first betrayal, not the divorce, the deliberate erasure. The second came from his attorney, indirectly. At the first mediation session, James's side presented a personal financial affidavit showing his monthly income at $4,100. I had processed his payroll for 12 years. In the last full year I was doing the books, his owner distributions had averaged $14,800 a month. He had restructured his own compensation after I left, rerouted money through a vendor account I wasn't familiar with. It wasn't subtle once you knew where to look, but you had to know where to look. The third thing happened at the second mediation session. His attorney looked at me across the table and said, "Ms. Morse, you've been out of the workforce for over a decade. Your earning capacity is limited. We think the settlement we're offering is generous given the circumstances." The settlement they were offering was $31,000 and 2 years of spousal support. For 12 years. For a business I had helped build from 11 service contracts to over 200 active clients. I thanked them for their time and told my attorney I needed a week. What they didn't know was that I'd been building something very different in those weeks since I moved out. I had gone through every box in Becca's garage, every tax return from 2013 through last year, every bank statement I had copies of, every vendor contract with dates and amounts, equipment purchase records, insurance documents listing asset values, the retained earnings summary I'd prepared myself in 2021 showing a balance of $218,000 that had never appeared in James's disclosure. I had also found something I hadn't expected, an email thread I'd printed years ago during a particularly confusing bank reconciliation. A thread between James and his accountant discussing how to restructure distributions for flexibility. I hadn't understood it fully at the time. My divorce attorney, a woman named Carol, understood it immediately. "This is evidence of pre-planned income concealment," Carol said, reading through it at her desk. "Combined with the asset undervaluation, we have enough to move this from mediation to full discovery." Carol was 51, compact, and spoke in complete sentences that left no room for misunderstanding. She'd been recommended to me by Becca's neighbor, a woman who'd gone through her own contentious divorce 4 years earlier, and said Carol was the only reason she'd come out of it with anything. Carol charged $285 an hour and was worth every cent. When we filed for full financial discovery and submitted my documentation package to the court, James's attorney requested a 30-day extension, then another. Then they called Carol directly and asked what it would take to settle. Carol told me what they offered next. I won't name the exact number, but it was significantly more than $31,000. It included a fair valuation of my contribution to the business, a structured buyout, and spousal support that reflected his actual income rather than the one he'd invented for the affidavit. When the revised disclosure finally came through, the business was listed at $394,000. I sat across from James at the final settlement conference in Carol's office. It was the first time we'd been in the same room since mediation. He didn't look at me much. When he did, his expression was something between embarrassed and resigned. His attorney said, "My client would like to resolve this today." Carol looked at me. I nodded once. James signed everything that afternoon. The settlement was fair, actually fair, not his version of it. The buyout was structured over 3 years. I walked out of Carol's office at 4:40 p.m. in the afternoon with a copy of the signed agreement and drove to Becca's house and sat in the driveway for a little while before going inside. I start a new job in 2 weeks, accounts manager at a property management company in East Knoxville. Full-time, benefits, a salary that reflects what I can actually do. My supervisor said during the interview that my grasp of financial documentation was the best she'd seen from someone re-entering the workforce. I didn't explain where it came from. The Subaru is still running, the cardigan collection has not expanded. I'm renting a small apartment near a good grocery store, and I sleep better than I have in years. James thought 12 years of invisible work meant 12 years of nothing. He forgot that every number I touched was a number I remembered. He forgot that invisible and powerless are not the same thing. He forgot that the woman who kept the books knew exactly where all the books were. Don't let anyone convince you that quiet work has no value. It has tremendous value. The key is knowing where you put it. If you've been through a divorce where the other person tried to make you feel like you had nothing and deserved less, I want to hear your story. Leave it in the comments. Tell me what happened and what you did next. You are not alone in this, and you are not wrong for fighting for what you contributed. Comment your country name from where you're watching. Let's see how far this reaches, because someone out there needs to hear this today. Did this story hit home? Let me know by liking the video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Help this story find the people who need it most by clicking that subscribe button right now. I'm reading every comment. You matter here, and so does your story.